Hey students, welcome to the tutorial video for multiplication and division of rational numbers as it relates to fractions. Now, similar to what we did in chapter 1, we are going to multiply and divide positive and negative combinations, but we're going to apply it to fractions as we have done with adding and subtraction. So right now you should take this foldable out, and I'm in the second to the last tab. I'm going to put the notes at the very bottom of this main section, and the top section we can add some examples that we go over in class. But for the most part, okay, you organize it in a way that makes sense. So with that being said, let's get right into the actual notes. So I'm looking at the multiplication section first. Okay, so multiplying, okay, multiply fractions, and this is going to apply to any kind of multiplication we use, but I'm just going to go and show you some of the general steps as it relates to fractions. Okay? There are two situations that you're going to encounter. There's the same signs and the different signs. So if they have the same sign, now when we're talking about the same sign, I'm talking about the combinations of, say, negative times a negative or a positive times a positive. So I'm just using a little diagram there to go ahead and ease the notation. So if we have the same sign, okay, your actual answer, if we recall from chapter 1, is positive. So if they have the same sign, they're positive. The weird one is the two negatives. Okay, negative times a negative, think of it as canceling each other out. The answer is going to be positive. Now, on the flip side, if they have different signs, and that's when I say different signs, one's positive, one's negative, so there can be two combinations, negative times a positive or positive times a negative. Well, in this case, the answer is negative, completely opposite of that first rule. So we have two situations here, and basically we have to just apply it. So same sign, positive, different signs, negative. The only tricky thing about multiplication of fractions is going to be all of the other rules and steps that you have to do. So things that you have to remember, okay? So I'm going to go ahead and put it kind of like bulleted points, things to remember, okay? Improper fractions. So we are going to convert everything to improper fractions to ensure that we get an answer that makes sense. If you use mixed numbers and try multiplying, it's awkward, it's different, it's not appropriate for the level of problems you're going to get. You want to convert everything to improper fractions. Do that right away. And additionally, we are going to use, okay, cross simplification as a way to go ahead and ease some of our operations. So when we go over some core examples, for this video you're just getting the notes down, but when we go over some core examples there will be some cross simplification skills that we can apply. Okay, and last but not least, always simplify your answer. Okay, and that is a general rule for all fraction operations. Always simplify final answer. So at this point, this is the complete notes. Okay, this is the complete notes as it relates to just multiplying. Okay, for this video, you're just getting the notes down. We are going to do some actual examples in class, and I'll actually model it and show it. So don't use up the entire space on your foldable. You need extra space to go ahead and add these examples. Okay, so at this point, feel free to pause this video if needed, and we will go into the division section in just a little bit. Okay, pause this video if needed, and then we'll move on. All right, so you got the multiplying fractions all set. Okay, that's the general notes. Let's go ahead and get into the wide world of division, divide fractions. So there's really only one new thing as it relates to fraction division. Okay, and I'm just going to bluntly say it or write it out. We don't actually divide fractions. We switch it to multiplication, and from there we use our multiplication rules. So I'm going to put it pretty much point blank. We don't divide. We don't divide. Okay? We rewrite or switch. I'll put switch. We switch to multiplication. Okay? And many of you know this. Let me go ahead and finish writing that down. We switch to multiplication. Many of you know this because you've done this in the past. Okay? And it's a very common one that you guys have seen. It's KCF, keep change, and flip. So it's going to be you're going to keep the first number, change the second number, or change the second operation, I'm sorry, from division to multiplication, and then you're going to go ahead and actually flip the second fraction, okay? It's also called the reciprocal. So the reciprocal means that when you're taking a fraction like 3/4, okay, it switches to 4/3. Keeps the sign, everything else still applies. So we don't actually divide, we switch to multiplication, and then use multiplication rules, use multiplication integer rules after the flip. So let me write that down while you catch up. We use the multiplication integer rules after KCF. Okay? So everything still holds. All that stuff that we talked about with improper fractions, okay, all that is still going to apply. But the key thing is that we're going to KCF it and then move into multiplication. So keep, change, flip. Okay? One thing I do want to mention that this is going to be kind of important because this is a common mistake I see. Okay? I'm going to just put it here as another bulleted point in a different color so it's real obvious. Don't cross simplify. Don't cross simplify until after the flip. Okay? Don't cross simplify until after the flip. Now, the reason we do this is to go ahead and make the problem simpler and easier to work with, but cross simplification only works when we are multiplying and we don't want to go ahead and cross simplify before we flip, or else the entire math problem changes. Okay? So let me go ahead and zoom out here. This should be the organized notes that you have in your Foldable so far. You do not have any examples, anything of that sort, but during class, we're going to go ahead and go over core examples, add it to this list where you can see how switching it to improper, doing the cross simplification, and the multiplication and division all comes together. All right, so with that being said, if you have any questions, obviously reach out to me, review this video as needed, make sure your notes are complete, and prepare for the actual core examples. At this point, that concludes this video. Thanks for watching.